So welcome, Tim, in 11Hacks podcast. I'm super excited and super happy that you took the time, this close to the Christmas. So thank you very much again that you are coming to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So I have here some structure that we will hold to, but let's talk about all the details we can. So right now you were a coach, head coach for a few games of Sparta B team. For me it felt interesting, like when you are training with different group of players and then A-team players enter your squad during last few days for the game. How do you manage this?
That is the reality. We know that the guys that we're working with early on in the week will probably not be the 11 guys that we will play with during the weekend. I think it's a challenge. I think it's still really good when we have guys from the first team coming to support us, coming to help us. I think it's also good for our guys to see how the first team guys, prepare, how professional they are, and just, get inspired from them a little bit. So I don't see it as a problem, but yes, a challenge somehow. And when it comes to set pieces, for example, you can't really spend too much time. It's only match day -1 that you can actually go through some stuff on the pitch. But when it comes to style of play, tactical things, we do the same things as the first team, or we should be doing the same things as the first team. So it should be quite smooth moving up and down between the A and the B team. So that makes it a little bit easier.
And are the players able to create connections? There was a study previously that when Fabregas came to Chelsea and played with Hazard, and it took 6 months before their combinations became effective and became really good. Is it possible to feel can you explain to your players hey, this is what the player from the A team likes to do, this is how he likes to receive? Do you have time to focus on that, or you just plug in player into the lineup?
Yeah, I think that's probably too much to ask. I think creating relations probably take anything from 6 to 18 months. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be, the way you want it to be. But I think what the club is trying to do, or has been trying to do for the past year, aligning A and B team, working similarly, playing the same style. I think that really helps the transition between the two squads. So if a first team player comes down to the B team, he knows what to expect. So it's been really good to see, and hopefully we can build on that.
Checking the data in the second division, you and Jihlava were the highest pressing teams, and in the similar fashion, your expected goals conceded was probably in the last. Both of your data were in the last 3. Is it actually possible to play high pressing in second division, where most of the teams are just happy not to build up and play long balls?
Yeah, I think we play a style that we think is good for our players' development, no matter what the opponents do. So when it comes to pressing intensity, we need to be one of the top teams. I would say it's also quite easy because a lot of the teams in the second division, they don't press. But yeah, Jihlava, they have some amazing numbers when it comes to PPDA. We were also, I think we were second or third. Second
with a big jump on the third. So yeah. You are 2 pressing teams in the league, I would say.
Yeah. And but yeah, we've just the last 16 games we've conceded way too many goals. We were really poor defending set pieces for the first 9-10 games. But yeah, having this style of play, it's it is 100% because we believe it will benefit the players' careers. So sometimes players might even ask, hey, should we be a little bit more passive in this game, or should we do this and do that? No matter which game it is, no matter which opponent it is, we stay true to ourselves, we stay true to our identity, and that is how it will be.
And can you actually adapt it? Like for example, like Sparta can go in, 4-3 free shape of they defend the free, so 3-4 shape, for example. And if you commit so many players, then you will concede much more from the long balls. So can you at least like adapt it, or do you hold up to the shape of the first team?
There's when it comes to defending the long ball, it's another aspect where we've been poor at times. So we work a lot of things. When the opponent has the ball and they pass it back to their defenders or back to the goalkeeper, we pump. Most of the time up to the halfway line, and that has its risks, of course, because many teams, they can see that they can take advantage of it. So if there's a well-timed deep run, it creates some problems if we don't fall at the same time with our back five or back three. So we've definitely conceded some chances, maybe a goal or two as well. But we just really believe in that kind of dynamic style of play that is important for our young squad. And I think our average age in the games is something like 19 and a half, 20 or something, and that is just a lot younger than most teams. So yes, we lack some street smartness, we lack some experience, but for me it's just so motivating having that kind of combination of, yes, development is important, but also trying to win, trying to compete. So for me, I would say mostly it's only positive problems.
Yeah, like you put on yourself like constraints that you need to fulfill A, B, C, and then winning, which is kind of like if you would play with this young squad, you would probably not try high pressing, and you would just like play with mid block and so on to be most successful, because like long balls is against young center backs just work because they don't feel the trajectories of the ball and they don't pick up the right defending in 60 meters. It's more difficult for the center backs.
But what is, first you need to define what success is. Mm-hmm. For me, it's not as simple as just looking at the points on the table. I think for me, success is when we can give a player like Horak, our captain last year, our left wing back, give him a chance to take that step up to a first division club, playing for Radec Králové, preparing him for first team football. So that is, for me, that is also success. And then it's also, I would still be very positive with a young group of players. I think if you have of course, there's always different ways you can play football, and no way is the right way. Everybody has their ideas and theories, but even if you have a talented squad, young, fit, dynamic, why would you not press high? You also know that statistically, you score more goals if you press high.
Yeah.
So if you are curious when it comes to data, and you have some KPIs that you work after, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, like the thing is that Czech football is actually built well against the strategy. Because like if everyone would try to play on the ball, then the pressing strategy has like a lot of merits. But if all of the teams as their primary tactic want to use like very direct strategy, then it's actually like the pressing doesn't have as much impact, because more important for you would be like structure and solve second balls.
Yeah. So that is still important when it comes to the chaos situations in the middle of the park. We've been really poor. So if there's ball bouncing and we just lose because of physicality, we lose because we're not hungry enough, we lose because we're not aware of how important those moments in the game are. But yeah, it's funny because yes, sometimes it's enough with 1 or 2 pressing actions and the long ball will go. But then it's a challenge for us when we meet actually teams who are trying to play. There are definitely a few of them in the second division. And then we can get a little bit frustrated because there's not enough with 1 or 2 pressing actions. You need to do a little bit more. So it's a very good league for our guys. And for me, it's about exposing them to difficult situations. So for our central defenders, yes, we could stay low. We could have a better structure. We could be better organized. We could maybe, win more games. But we would not expose them to the kind of situations that they're getting now when we're pressing the way we're pressing. And I just feel like for their long-term development, that will have a big effect. Yeah, that will give, Vecherka, that will give Shabinsky, that will give Lilling a chance to, progress into the first division, hopefully, at some point.
Yeah, I agree with it. It's 100%. You're speaking in my mind. If we switch to on the ball tactics, actually, how are you trying? Again, most of the teams are happy to sit back and to Czech football is specific. We have least passes in the world probably in first. Actually,
I read this somewhere as well.
Yeah, actually we have. So, how is it to improve players in this very specific environment, mainly their on the ball techniques?
Yeah, it's so for the past year, my focus has been more on the defensive side. When it comes to on ball behavior, I feel so one of the aspects where we've been struggling with is actually when we try to build up, when we're trying to be patient on our own half, we lose the ball, transition against, and we concede a goal. And then, of course, as player, you get a little bit nervous, you get agitated, you're thinking, okay, should we start playing along? But that's not really why Sparta Prague has a B team. We still want to be courageous on the ball, we still want to build up, but I think it's for the players, they need to be, so we have a lot of really young guys. I think they just need to be more resilient when it comes to receiving the ball in tight areas, receiving the ball with their back against the opponent's goal, because there is still that kind of youthness in them that they think they can take a touch, turn up, look up, and then play a pass. The game is a little bit quicker than youth football, and that is something that they need to learn. But yeah, it's when it comes to the offensive side, we have Lars Friis in the first team, a real nerd when it comes to the attacking phase, really really high level when it comes to details, curious about where evolution of football. He's someone that I try to speak a lot to because I feel he's just on a different planet sometimes, and he has questions that you never thought about, and yeah, we have some really exciting talents in our squad, so it is about preparing them for that next step.
Yeah, he kind of destroyed the league for a few months when he created the space for Haraslín by dragging Zelený on the edge of the pitch, and no one really adapted well. They always try to squeeze them on Sparta's right side, and they always just Wiesner taking touch inside and switching to Haraslín, and he just that was probably the first time in Czech division that I saw someone creating space which is not vertical. So what Czech coaches do a lot is that they come inside and create a space behind or other ways around, but to do it horizontally, no one really had repeating strategy to do that. So the kind of there was 10 games where no opposition coach knew what to do with that, and it was an interesting idea. So you embarked on this journey as a head coach. What are your first feelings from this
Yeah, it's been good. The first 6 months I was in the academy with the under 16s because part of me thought that I wanted to get away from that that result oriented football. But after a few months, I actually noticed that it's a big part of me and my DNA. Competing for points, battling, winning, losing. I missed it. But it was a good 6 months. Really enjoyed working with the coaching staff and the players. I still see them almost every day at Strahov, so we're still in contact. But the last year I was in the B team, which feels like the optimal environment for myself because it's still working with young, ambitious, hungry player who wants to progress, succeed. So they're very curious and open-minded, which I like. And then it's still about winning during the weekend. So I think the setup that you have for the B teams is really, really good here in Czech Republic because these reserve leagues that we see in many countries, that is just not competitive football. So what you have here is something that you should definitely treasure. But of course,
it's created like in the last few years.
Okay,
so
I didn't know.
We had it during the 90s. There was the B teams for all of the teams, and then they cancel it. And I think it's like maybe 4 to 5 years when we recreated it because it's made much more sense.
It does
because you have the middle step between U19 and professional football, where you can like give players minutes. And manage them more against physical players. I think we are special in this that most of the leagues are more about physicality. So if you the jump from U19 to the first division is just way too much. Yeah. So that's why it was for me rightly created, and yeah. I wanted to ask, you said interesting word, environment. How do you feel you can also help to move culture from the first team to players in the the younger players? Is it possible to have the same culture, same mentality of players in the B team, even though you have different tasks and you are not trying to win the title and so on?
I think our ambition should definitely be to build a culture which has the same standards as the first team. It doesn't need to be the highest standards, but they should be prepared for what is coming, and that is our job. We need to build that bridge between the academy and to the first team, and. I actually feel that we haven't done enough work when it comes to culture. I feel that is definitely there's some room for improvement when it comes to culture. When it comes to creating a high performance environment where the players are aware of what it takes to make it to the top. Because I think that probably majority of people they maybe have a feeling of what hard work means, what the demands are if you want to make it. But I think that probably not all of them actually knows what it takes, and that is something that I look forward to maybe talking more about in the future, because that is just for me that is what it's all about, making the players fully aware of what they need to do to give themselves the best opportunity to make it, because those are crucial years that we have them. So we have the youngest guys, I think they're 17, and then 22, 23. That's a crucial period in a footballer's life.
Most difficult one.
It is a very difficult one. I'll get into that in a minute. But those are the years when you actually make it or break it, I think. Those are the years that you give yourself the chance to make it to the top or become the best version of yourself. Because that kind of transition from youth football to senior football is difficult, physically, mentally. I remember myself that it took me years before I actually accepted what a senior environment is. I was stuck in that kind of baby football where it was like, you wanted to play nice football and you wanted to be the star on the pitch, and then I got a little bit frustrated because somebody came and kicked me, and because we met teams that were only playing long balls and I had to be there for the second balls and win my duels, and I was like grown up in Southampton Academy, and we were the best team in the league, and we had Theo Walcott and Adam Lallana and Nathan Dyer and Gareth Bale and all these guys, and we were playing beautiful football. And then all of a sudden I go to Sweden to get my first taste of adult football, and it was a shock to me. It was in training. It was a lot about organization. It was a lot about defensive work, and I found it hard to adapt. So that transition is really, really difficult, and you see that some players adapt quicker than others. So you just need to work with those ones who find it a little bit more difficult to just stay patient and give yourself the chance to just like think about it in a long-term perspective.
Maybe some like a little bit philosophical question, but when would you try to teach players tactical things? Where is the right time to switch from like focus on yourself, focus on your skills, on your first touch and so on, to like start to explain like intricate details of tactics and how you want to perform and so as a team rather than as an individual?
I think like any kind of tactical discussions or tactical work should probably not start sooner than 13, 14, 15 years old. I think before that you need to get the basic stuff right. So when anything when it comes to like children's football, youth football, intensity in training, strength training, 1 against 1s, 2 against 2, 3s against 3. I think get the basic rights first, so that you have some raw material to work with later, because tactical understanding that comes later for me.
Yeah, this is interesting for me, since like in Spain they do it already in age of 11, 12, and it feels like too soon, but then you look at the players and how much they tactically understand the game, like Xavi, Iniesta are like easy examples. But overall, like if you would bring like some player from second division, he would not adapt physically in Czech league, but he would like understand the game probably a little bit better. So yeah, this is for me always like interesting discussion, like where is the right time to and how to introduce the first tactical elements and still focus on the like qualities, individual qualities, but then like improve the understanding of the game. Since I think like through Nagelsmann and through these type of coaches that really value players who can solve difficult situations by themselves and creatively, so they need to understand the situation much more than with other coaches. Then I think like in the future maybe this can even drop to like 12, 11 years old.
Yeah, I think you can definitely add some training in your weekly program. I don't think it should be a priority when you're young. I think I was actually took part in a seminar in Finland quite recently when we had a lot of lectures around Finnish football and the future of Finnish football and what we need to do to improve. And it was quite interesting when it comes to like the tactical things, because we've been influenced as well, from Spain and Portugal and France maybe.
Why was that?
I felt there was maybe a little bit of copy pasting for a few years.
Why not?
Yeah, but you still need to take your own context into consideration, but for like a number of years, I think a lot of teams in Finland they got like really nerdy around like building up from the back. And when people came to watch trainings, I think people from FIFA, people from other organizations, you know, when they came with fresh eyes and followed Finnish football training, they could see that a lot of the time, when it comes to the tactical part, was around building up from the goalkeeper. And that just, it creates, of course, we become really good at building up from the back, building up from the goalkeeper. But the next step, you know, what does it, you know, you don't get the striker to deal with a long ball. You know, the striker is not really involved, the wingers are not really involved, and
everyone learns to defend it if everyone does it.
Yeah, we miss those kind of chaos situations in the middle of the park, and we see that when the youth national teams are playing, we're losing too many of those, you know, duels. Basic thing, but we lose a lot of the duels. We're not getting into the box, the offensive box, as much as other teams. We're not creating a lot of chances compared to other teams, and we're not scoring a lot of goals compared to other teams. Quite crucial things when it comes to football. So you always need to, you know, think about that. You know, what is, okay, if we do this, what happens next? You know, what kind of players are we developing? So I think it was interesting to hear.
Yeah, like we can see this a lot in Czech coaches as well. That they kind of, I think it's because build-up is actually not like simple to understand in terms of details, but actually you can kind of like replicate Manchester City structure, and you can kind of, not right now with stones going into the middle, but like overall you can kind of like pick some details. But actually, like one example, like Rakov coach, I don't right now remember the name, but the one who won the title and everything.
Oh.
So when we analyzed him, he was like, he didn't do like most of the build-up, but he was amazing in the final third.
Oh.
And that meant that he was the best coach in the country. So kind of like more, if the same focus on build-up would be, that's just a theory, but if the same focus on build-up would be switched to similar focus on positioning and receiving and so on in the final third, I think actually like you can get ahead of the curve, because in Czech league, other than Sparta and Slavia, no one really has like clear final third strategy that's like on the level of like top teams, or that it's not like one-dimensional. Like for example, Slovácko just likes to cross, and they cross like I think close to 50% of entries into the box are crosses. So you are kind of one-dimensional. You don't have more strategies. You don't have cutback. You don't have through balls. You don't have some lateral passes and so on. So actually, it's a pity that most of the coaches follow this build-up strategy and focus on it so much, and rather if they would go into final third and then spend a little bit of time on build-up.
Yeah, that was just, you know, funny how, you know, how we prioritize our time. You know, it's again from my A license course, we discussed how much time we work on building up from the goalkeeper versus how much time we work on throw-ins, for example. And there's is it like 40 to 50 throw-ins per game?
Yeah, something like that.
And how many times do you build up from the goalkeeper? I don't know, 10, 12?
Yeah,
15
something
max?
Yeah, something like 15, 20 would be probably.
And usually you spend maybe, you know, 20, 30 minutes on building up from the goalkeeper maybe.
Yeah.
And barely any time, you know, creating a pattern or structure when it comes to throw-ins all over the pitch. So it's just, you know, why is that? And it's just, I think it's just like, again, historically, we've always done that. And instead of, you know, saying, okay, why do we do this? Why can't we do it differently? Why can't we do it better? I think that is just like a bigger question when it comes to football, which can be really conservative. Is, okay, some coach say, hey, we've always done it this way. You know, those coaches, those coaches you need to be scared of. If you hear this sentence, hey, we've always done it this way, then you know, okay, this is not a coach you need to listen to.
Yeah, 100%. Like the game changed so much even in the last few years. than what you did like 10, 15, like Mourinho, for example. Like I would say around 2000, he was probably the best coach in the world, or like on par with Guardiola when Guardiola entered the stage. But right now his tactical ideas are actually like super old, and everyone does the same ideas better and with more understanding of the same situations. So you need to adapt.
Yeah, you need to be curious. I think if you have, I mean, you can still, you know, get setbacks and you can still lose games, but I think if you have that kind of mindset of like wanting to learn, first of all, being humble, being curious, I think that is like needs to be the foundation for a coach, no matter how experienced you are. Because I think there's too many coaches who just leans back and says, hey, I've been a coach for 20 years, I know this. But if you make the same mistakes every year in, year out, then it's not 20 years of experience, then it's 1 year of experience. So not being critical and like really analyzing yourself, reflecting over what you're doing, not like being open, receptive to feedback, which is really, really important. Then you know, bound for failure.
That was nicely said. So Schánělec and Hranoš are right now excelling in second division. How far do you think are they from like first league or step up even to Sparta?
Yeah, I think when it comes to our point system that we have, the same point system that the first team has, I think Scania has the most points when it comes to goal and chance involvement. And of course, everybody can see that he's been crucial for us. And Hranoš is actually number 2, I think. So he's also had some really good months. Hranoš is still very young, but I must say, in his like approach to football and the lifestyle, I think he's very mature for his age. You know, very, very professional. He seems to know what it really demands. He takes care of himself. So that is what impresses me most, because he's, like I said, he's still young. Yeah, Scania he's getting to that point where he might need some kind of new challenge. Somehow I don't know what that could be. Working
loan for in the first division somewhere to get like 700-800 minutes, something like that.
Could be one option. Could also be an option to be more involved with the first team, training week in, week out. Because now it's been a little bit sporadic when he's with them. I think if he could be with them every day, it would almost be as good as going alone, in my opinion. So that's another option. But yeah, both of them they've done well. I think they're working hard on the pitch, working hard in the gym to add some weight, add some physicality to their game. I know that we will have a few of our guys will be with the first team when preseason starts to get that experience. So that's always good for them.
Yeah, I was I'm working for actually competitor for a club who tried to sign Hranoš. Tough to compete against Sparta. Man, I was so angry that we couldn't do it. And right now, if I was checking the data yesterday, and he feels like probably second best or best winger in the league with his age. So that's amazing. That's amazing. I have him a little bit even higher than Schánělec, even though Schánělec has also a really nice skill set. Last season, I really liked in a few games I watched Amat Sisse and Nelson Okeke, but they struggle with injuries right now. And actually, with other of our clients, it takes a lot of time when new players come from different leagues. For example, one player we signed it from Latvia, and it takes time for them, and they pick up injuries because the league is so physical and so intense in terms of how much time do you have on the ball. How can you accustom to such demands with these kind of players? And is it connected? Is it?
Well, to be fair, I was just going to say that I'm not sure if I agree with that. That the physicality of the second division is the reason why they've been injured. Nelson definitely not. I think he definitely has a history of some niggling injuries that has like stopped him from progressing. I think both of them, they have no problem with the intensity of the second division. Are they fit and healthy?
Like definitely on the ball, both of them look like very comfortable on the ball.
Yeah, but it was also funny to see Pape, for example, when he first came. He was, I think we did the typical traditional beat test, yo-yo test. I think he came last. But then when we did
maybe can you explain, because I'm not sure if all of the listeners know what that is.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's this physical test where you test your stamina. I think that's my short answer. And it goes that you need to run, I can't remember how long it was, 15-20 meters, and get there by the beep, and then run back, get there by the beep, and you do this for intervals and the speed.
Just about the intensity and stamina, basically.
Yeah, it is. So this was it? I can't remember. Was it in January when we had the first test, and he came from Africa and was maybe poorly prepared, and new club, new dressing room, new language. And he came last in that test. But then we redid the test end of preseason, I think, and if I remember correctly, I think he actually won the test. So he went from being the worst to the best. So, but you could, even that first week of preseason, even if his test was poor, when the ball was involved, he was still just as good as anyone. Right. And that was just funny to see. When we played like small-sided games or medium-sided games, he was still, one of the best on the pitch. You could just see that he, intelligent, good decisions on the ball, good first touch. So we knew that, when we get him fit, he will have a huge influence for us. And you can see that when he plays, when it comes to goal and chance involvement, he's one of our top players.
Yeah. This is for me like a very interesting to thought of in a Czech environment, because when we scout players for some teams, they always say, and he has to be this and this physicality and this running and so on. And then if you imagine, but this guy is like amazing already, and if you improve him in things you understand, then he will get into another level, and you are selling him not in 2 years but in 6 months. So it's good. It's good to work with players on their weaknesses and just get them better. I saw a lot of your games, and you have such a huge presence as a coach. Like you can hear your instructions even if you are sitting on the opposite part of the pitch. And you are also the captain of the national team. Like, was this your default quality, or did you cultivate it throughout your career?
No, it was definitely developed, cultivated during a long career as a footballer. When you're young, when you're a teenager, you I think maybe majority of us, we were maybe a little bit selfish. You look at your own performances, maybe before the team performances. You want to succeed. You look at ways, how can you play better? I didn't think, even though I was a captain of the youth national teams in Finland from the age of 15, I didn't feel I was a good captain or a good leader by no means. So this came after a lot of self-reflection, a lot of setbacks, a lot of looking at others, how they lead, how they act, how they behave. So it definitely came from a lot of experiences. So it was just, I would say, the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years of my career where I felt like, now I'm getting a good understanding of what a captain should do and what a leader should do on and off the pitch. And I think the leadership is even now, I'm still just starting on my coaching journey, and I have a lot to learn. I'm still not a good coach, but I think when it comes to leadership, I already have some skills that I believe can benefit any team. So setting a direction, high standards, high demands, not accepting bullshit in training, in games, driving intensity. I think, creating a culture where it's about high performance, about curiosity. I think those kind of skills, I think I already have them to a good level. But yeah, still a lot of other factors that I need to work on. But leadership, it's been a part of me for a long time, and a really interesting topic that you can never become fully taught. So you just need to be curious and see how we can inspire players no matter age and life situation.
And I have a feeling about this that so many players missed the opportunity to bring value into the team with this specific skill, like to be like really helpful for the team. And like I saw a lot of players in their like late 20s, like 27, 28, even if they had like the right personality, like they were good in the group, they kind of are familiar with everyone. But do you think that there is an opportunity for players actually like bring this skill set and bring more value rather than to just focus on being on the pitch?
Yeah, so as a coach, I believe a lot in inclusive leadership. So it's about bringing people together to make the best decisions for the group. So that is not only the staff around you, but also the players around you. So I think a good coach, he or she sees these qualities in the group. So even if there's some players who might not be playing on the pitch, you can still use them. You can still make them feel important. And that is, when I came to the end of my career, especially when I was at FC Midtjylland, which is a inspirational club for me, I wasn't that important when it comes to on pitch stuff. I wasn't playing week in, week out. I was playing here and there, but the coaches, and I think it was Brian Priske at that time, he still made me feel important. He still made me feel like, hey, you are important to this group, no matter if you play or not. And that is something that that you really appreciate, and you can be calm. You accept that okay, physically you're losing some speed, you're losing some power, even though that is like a bit of a life crisis for a footballer when you go through that period. But it can be made better and smoother if you have good people around you that still sees you and wants to work with you and make you a part of the group.
Yeah, my experience was when I started to work for Slavia. There was their current sporting director Jiří Bílek, and he was like, I was there, like the head coach took me into the group and I explained, hey, this is Jakub, he does this and this, he is helping us with so on and so on, and I explained like some like small details and everything, and the second meeting, and like Jiří came to me and like say, oh, this is super interesting, like explain me. And I felt like, okay, this is, and he was in the late stages of his career at this time. He was like 31, 32, already like a little bit slow, playing sometime, but not that much. But you already saw like his part of the team is just, okay, if there would be young 16-year-old kid, he would go to him as well and like help him be introduced to the group. And he wanted to understand like what this person does and so on. So I think this is like super helpful, and many players should actually, like younger players should actually understand that they are giving information about themselves like every second they are in the club environment or even outside, but in the club. So they are rated like how they act in certain situations and not only like how they play in the game or in the training.
Yeah.
So that's probably one thing to focus on for players who are listening to us.
Yeah, and it's also, I think there's so many things that you can do when it comes to using these older players and their experiences before to actually maybe help some of the younger guys. I believe a lot in having mentors and mentorships in a club where first team players might meet some academy players.
So mentor, you mean that you will pair like first team player with the B team player or the young player, that he is the guy who is focused on getting this teenager into the team?
Yeah, that would probably be the dream scenario. I think now what Michael Bavra is doing, he's actually pairing them, because he works with he's a development coach, but sometimes when we do striker specific stuff, he will have Kurta and someone else going through some clips for our strikers, our number 9s, and then having a meeting, and they can ask questions, they can look each other in the eyes, they can get a connection. That's really, I think, helpful for I think both of them. It's a win-win. Also for the first team player, actually standing there explaining what you do can also be like a good experience for them. Instead of just being there in a meeting, Brian or Lars speaking or Lubo speaking, and they sit back in their chairs and not actually interacting. So
also as a boost of confidence, like you are asked to explain how you solve this and this situation for the upcoming striker. So that's also like really nice to boost their confidence and their self-awareness.
But I think that like in the dream scenario, I think it would be great if you had some older players. So when there's like younger players coming into the squad, no matter if it's A, B or under 19s, that there are some older guys who gets assigned to these players. Just for the first, I don't know, it can be first 6 to 8 weeks, that you take care of this new guy who comes in. You make sure that he feels good. You explain to him about, I don't know, rules, regulations, culture, playing style, food times, bus times, I don't know. And that is also how you create some leadership, in the older guys. That you ask them to do a little bit more, ask them to take a little bit more responsibility for the whole group. But also, like we spoke about, involving the older players, maybe at the end of their career when they're not, playing as much as before. So there's so many things that you could do when it comes to development, culture, that we haven't even touched on in our club.
Let's move on from the coaching to your own career. There was a huge topic, you already mentioned it with Southampton, there was a huge topic if Czech players should leave Czech teams around the age of 16, 17, when they didn't actually play some senior football. And there's like a lot of critique about this, that the probability of losing the player because he won't manage to move into different country, to adapt to different like environment and so on, that it can actually hurt them, even though they get much better coaching in like top academies, like you are in Southampton, or in like Czech players usually go to like Atalanta or Italian Juventus and teams like that. With that experience, like what is your current view on players leaving at that age?
I think you definitely need to think about it carefully if you decide to go. I think you need to be very well aware that it's going to be tough. Not only the football part, but just leaving your family and your comfortable surroundings.
Did you have opportunity to take your family with you, or you just went alone?
I think that was never a discussion. So I think I was more than happy to go alone.
Okay, interesting.
Without
any support. That's
but I was also. I think it's also very individual. I was.
Someone in the 60 at that age wants to rebel against the family, and someone who needs the support.
I've always been like an old soul. even at that age of 16. I was very, I could take care of myself, and I think even though my mom was maybe a little bit nervous sending me abroad, I think they were quite comfortable because of the person I was. I had always been very stubborn and systematic, and my dream of becoming a professional football had always been there. I was very disciplined when it comes to looking after myself and going out running on the streets or in the forests late on Saturdays or Sundays. So they also knew that was what I wanted. But for me, it was a fantastic school. Learning a new language, or my English was already then okay, but speaking English day in, day out, testing yourself against better players, because I grew up in a small village in Finland and I was, usually the better ones in training. So it was time that I really tested myself on a daily basis. Good coaching, good facilities, great teammates. And but yeah, it's definitely a big step. For me, it ended well, but it's definitely not for everyone. And I think it's also the club that you're going to. Sometimes I think we get blinded by the name of the club instead of what they can actually give you. Instead of their long-term plan for you. I think sometimes I think young players and their families they see a club with a stature and an image that is Champions League football, instead of maybe thinking, but is this really the kind of club that you need to go to? So those are the important questions when you're thinking about if you should leave or not.
You mentioned here that you played with some amazing players, including Bela and so on. Like, from those years, did you already know which players will be on that level, or there were some like hidden players which didn't perform? Like one mention might be Harry Kane, when no one really trusted him. Like, even his coaches from U17 thought that he won't be Premier League striker, and his development was more mentally, that he understood the game much more in that age, and then he improved much more. So do you think no development is direct, but could you see what, and did it fulfill that the players you thought they will manage to have the best careers, did they?
I mean, I could sense that we had a good group, but usually they would always tell us that there's maximum 1 to 2 who makes it into the professional game. But I think from those years there were so many. I think there were 7 or 8 who actually played Premier League, highest level.
That's from 1 year, or
no, that was from 3 age groups, I think.
3 age groups.
So
that's still crazy high number.
Another, I don't know, 6 to 8 who made it into professional football. And then we have these top guys, Gareth Bale winning, I don't know how many Champions Leagues.
Probably three, maybe 4.
And then, of course,
scoring an amazing goal in one of them.
Unbelievable. Adam Lallana, good career. Theo Walcott, Nathan Dyer winning the Premier League, and then the other bunch of players who played at Premier League, Championship, League One. So we had a good group, but did I think that so many would make it to that level? I was still surprised when I saw Gareth Bale moving for 100 million euros to Real Madrid. I was still a little bit surprised when I saw Adam Lallana going to Liverpool. But it makes you so happy. Somehow you can you say that, hey, I used to play football with that guy.
Are you in touch with any of those players?
No, not like that. But yeah, of course I met Gareth a few times. We were playing against Wales on a couple of occasions. So it's always always fun, and you always think back about the times when you played at Southampton. So yeah, good memories.
You played in 7 countries, which is a lot. Including Eredivisie, Swedish League, Danish League, Finnish League, or Bundesliga too. How would you compare these leagues? Their their tactics and like specifics of those leagues?
Yeah, it's I would say Dutch football, it can be very individualistic sometimes. I think that is also what they like, that you have a lot of players who can take players on, like can get past players who are fast. So you got more. So I went from going from the Swedish league, which was very you're organized. It's a lot of 4-4-2. You always have teammates around you that will help you in case something happens. To the Dutch league, which is a little bit more free.
No one thinks about defending there.
It's definitely less when it comes about compactness and organization. So it's a good league, especially for wingers, wingbacks, fullbacks. Good, of course. I played for FC Groningen. Now they actually got relegated, which big shock to everyone because it's a big club in the Netherlands, big stadium, big fan base, high expectations, and I think that kind of Dutch view on how football should be played, it can be a little bit arrogant sometimes. That if we were not playing the way we should be playing, there would be a concert of whistles after 10-15 minutes, and I think maybe Johan Cruyff or whatever it was, but I think the Dutch, they're very eager to let their feelings known when it comes to the style of play.
And in terms of like Scandinavian leagues and Bundesliga too, like how would you compare them? Like Scandinavian leagues, it feels sometimes that because I say Scandinavian leagues that we put it into the like one group, but actually like Danish and Swedish and for example Norwegian league, that's totally different on like it would be like separated with 1,000 kilometers actually.
And it's also when it comes to, so I saw this statistics quite recently when it comes to selling players. Or value of players from the different Nordic countries, and in Finland we were nowhere near good enough of having a high value on our players, on our national team players, compared to Norway and Denmark, who just sells a lot of players, and that kind of money pouring back into the country and I think just the leagues in Denmark and Norway, they're just better than the rest, and a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more. You
said Norway and Denmark?
No, Denmark especially. I think it's more international. Just a better step for young player if they want to move to a bigger league after that.
Yeah, Denmark has such a high intensity compared to Sweden and Norway to me. Like Norway for me is very not intense league, like a little bit tactical, a lot of running, but. As a scout, I don't I would rather go for Swedish or players from first Danish division than from Norway. That's more specific, I would say.
But it was Bundesliga 2 came there. We were almost got promoted. We came third, lost the playoff against Hamburg. Ended actually 1-1, but they stayed up because of their goals scored away from home. So, and after that year, I left for Denmark. Had 6 really good years in FC Midtjylland, which both the country and the club has definitely shaped my thinking, of football, but also shaped me as a person. So I think that that club and that place has had the biggest influence on me as a human being.
If you would compare, like a little bit go a little bit back to Sparta, like if you would compare like how we develop players in Czechia or in Sparta compared to the other leagues you have been there, like what are the specifics? What are we doing wrong and what are we doing right?
Well, I don't know. Tough question, to be honest. I think it's always fun when we speak with the others. If I speak to Czech people or Nordic people, and we try to compare when we see the different. I mean, there's always, every culture has this specific things, right? And
even in mentality.
Yeah, it is. I mean, listen, and some things I like here, and some things I feel that we in the Nordic countries we maybe do a little bit better. I do feel like it can be a little bit more hierarchical in Czech Republic compared to Nordic countries.
Can you maybe give me example?
Yeah, like I feel like in the Nordic countries we are good when it comes to just you can talk to anyone.
Okay.
And you know that the other person, he will listen to you, no matter what your status or role is. And that kind of, sharing knowledge, working together, that kind of democratic way of living. I feel, that is something that I really like. Of course, because I grew up there. It's normal for me. And here, I think that is something that is maybe slowly changing, especially in our environment, but yeah, it's maybe a little bit more, and I think that is, like I said, it's really looking good now when it comes to like being aligned between the different teams in the club and the coaching staffs in the club and working together for the benefit of Sparta Prague and developing better players. But I think that sometimes maybe you get the feeling that there are like clubs within clubs, and that is the case probably for a majority of clubs in European football, that you usually have like a first team, which is a first team, and they have no connection to the rest of the clubs. Yeah. But I feel what I really like with the coaching staff in the first team that they are really like willing to share, willing to not only be there for their own success, but actually maybe building something for long term, for the future. So I think that is, if you ask Czech coaches in the environment, I think they can see that is a big change to maybe how it's been previously. The kind of close proximity to the coaching staff of the first team, and everybody's just you can go in there anytime, knock on Priska's door and ask him questions. No problem. You can go and watch a training. No problem.
That sounds like very unusual for Czech environment.
Yeah, not just Czech, but like a lot of environments, they are just you make it into some kind of fortress. The first team things, the training, and then you don't want anyone to see, and you don't want anyone to look into what is happening in the.
We kind of had it with the national team as well. Like it felt like I don't know the specifics, but it felt like the first team coach is not talking with the U21 coach, like how you would, like some players could have get minutes in the U21 games and help them get into the U21 Euros. But they took them for the first team and they didn't play them and so on. It felt like there is no like overall communication between these parts, even in this national level, where you don't have actually that many tasks if you don't if players are in the clubs.
Yeah. I don't know about that specific situation, but I think you mentioned it already. Open communication. I think that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah. I think like we are here a little bit like afraid of sharing, afraid of giving up ideas, and
I think also maybe afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
Afraid of exposing yourself.
Yeah.
Afraid of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to develop yourself, those are crucial aspects.
Yeah, I had a discussion with a youth coach actually about this. And he said, "Hey, what should I do to improve?" And I said, read this and this, and this is how I learned like Spielveregelung and so on, tactical things and so on. And then I said to him, and put it on the internet, like build brand of yourself. Like why are not coaches sharing their ideas outside of being a pundit where you have like 2 minutes slot to explain some specific situation? Like no one really knows if you are doing, like, you don't have any discussion, you don't get any feedback and so on. Right. So I agree with this like completely, that we should be more open to be wrong. Like if you are active on Twitter as well or on other platforms, that if you are like wrong in 10% and people remember 10%, then they are wrong by themselves. That they don't focus on the 90% that you explained right. So and you get feedback on your opinions.
I think that was probably the best when it came to my or to the A license course that I did in Finland. The amount of feedback you got from your educators, that was really staggering, and it was really like honest, open, and of course first you need to create a psychologically safe space to actually do it. You need to have a connection, you need to have a relation. But it was just, for your own development, especially in this situation. I've been a coach for 1.5 years. I have so many things I need to improve. But getting the feedback now, from people who can see things that you can't see, your blind spots, actually mentioning them to you so you can reflect over them. I think that is just such a good start. And I don't know how you do it when it comes to the licenses here, but getting so much feedback when you meet it's I think it was really, really probably the best of the whole course.
Yeah, I wouldn't go into it because that would be my 1 hour rant about how we do it wrong and how like I was part of a few of these, like I did I had a talk for the profi license a few times, and man, like I expected that I will have a talk 40 minutes and then I will then have 40 minutes of questions, because usually the guys didn't like the thing I was explaining was data analysis and so on, and they didn't like see it probably nowhere, because it's not like I did it very approachable with details and so on, and then there was like 2 questions. So I was like, okay, so maybe I'm a poor presenter, or maybe they just needed hours to check in that they went to the talk and.
But it's definitely a feeling I have as well from this country, that there's a lot of, you have a guy or a coach or whoever, like somebody with a some kind of status, he speaks to you, and then there's no like interaction. In a way. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I maybe seen and heard. That is, you're very used to having a authoritative figure speak to you, and that authoritative figure, he does not maybe always expect to get any criticism or questions. Not in your case, of course, that's a different scenario. But I just feel maybe that kind of coaching player relationship that players, I can also sense that. Of course, that is the English language, and the barrier is a little bit higher, but it takes time to get them out of their shelf and actually having them. Hey, I want to hear your opinion. If you don't agree with me, tell me. Or if it's just this new generation, I don't know.
I think it's more about not being wrong, actually, because in the same, like I think you named it correctly, that. Even in this profi license, when I had the talk, then I knew some of the coaches personally, and if you take them in 1v1 and you have actually some kind of relationship where they don't need to try to present themselves to the group, and they are just talking, like, then they don't worry that they will say something wrong. So then they can go and ask, even if they feel maybe the question is stupid. But if you are in the environment when there is 25 people and you actually ask like something that like everyone thinks, oh, I knew this, so maybe it's afraid to be wrong, which is like, this is slowing us down actually a lot. There are so many great defensive midfielders who turned up to be coaches, like Arteta, Guardiola, Xabi. Right now it looks like maybe from Manchester United, Michael Carrick could be one. What is the specific aspects of the position that contribute to developing a good coaching mindset?
I have absolutely no idea. That's my honest. I mean, is there something with the fact that you're center of the pitch, you look both ways, you need to think about offense, defense. I'm not sure, but it's a curious thing.
I think it might be understanding of space. Because if you are winger, your task is to just like drop and then go, or like you have some specific like smaller tasks. But the understanding of game in as a 6 or as an 8 is probably like more needed, because you need to be aware like what's happening behind you, in front of you, how you can position yourself and so on. Like that would be my guess, but I hope to get the answer from defensive midfielder for. Did you play the whole career defensive? I checked the data I have it from 2015, and most of the data was 6 and 8. So, but I don't know if you were centre back previously.
No, not maybe a few games, but mostly a defensive-minded central midfielder.
I know your name for a long time, because when I entered around 2016-17 into like the data analytics of football, you were already branded as kind of franchise data transfer by FC Midtjylland. Like how were you actually informed about this, or how was the process about this, that you were kind of like so much connected with the data? And like I saw some talks actually about the example used, how you can use data, which I find might have been interested as a player. Like, okay, you did it.
Yeah, I think it was quite comical, because I don't see myself as a brilliant player, by no means. But yeah, I think I heard it just after I signed, that I was signed on the basis of data and statistics, and I don't think I thought about it too much back then. But just coming into that place, FC Midtjylland, that environment, and you could see how differently the atmosphere was, and how they used data when it came to recruitment and other things. Yeah, you got. I think that was probably the trigger point for me, where my own curiosity grew as well. But yeah, it was. I can't remember the specifics, but I think it was something with the second Bundesliga being an undervalued league, and seeing that the good teams in second Bundesliga actually were, could potentially play in Premier League even, based on that quality. And I was in one of those teams who were doing well. I was playing a lot, and this club, FC Midtjylland, they wanted to buy a central midfielder, or they had a need for one. So it was different factors that played a role, and I was actually not looking to move. I wanted to stay in Germany because I had a decent year. I wanted to learn German because I'm love languages. So it was just weird, after only 1 year, I get a call during my vacation. I'm on the balcony, getting some sun, and after that call, I just had a strange feeling in my stomach that I'm not being forced out or pushed out. But it ended well, and one of the best clubs I'll definitely play for.
Yeah, you were there in the legendary season when the team scored 28 goals from set pieces, which I think was per game was the best anyone did to that point. And you won the title in the first season, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. How different was it in terms of focusing time on set pieces?
Yeah, it was back then. I think the first year we still didn't spend a lot of time on set pieces, but there was definitely a clear structure. We had a really good taker, and we had some strong guys, which helps. Creates that potential to do things well. But there was definitely that kind of innovative mindset coming from the top people at the club, who said, hey, set pieces, that is important. That is an aspect in football which is not valued enough. Because usually, and you know that yourself, that coaches, they like to do 10 minutes match day -1, and then they expect results.
Yeah, I hate it.
It does not work like that. So yes, there was a bigger emphasis on set pieces that first year, but it only grew from then. Every year we built something, and especially with Mats Budgareit, who is now in the German national team. I think he's still there. having that same role, set piece role, assistant coach as well. But he was really nerdy, really passionate when it kind of came to set pieces and just that kind of charisma. He had a huge influence on us, and he took it to a different level. Just that kind of creating a playbook and working more like NFL teams, having different areas to attack, having different areas where we had a different setup, different kind of option.
He was an NFL team coach? Or?
No, but I think the inspiration came from there in many ways, from the owner, from Rasmus Ankersen. I think they were really inspired by how the NFL teams work when it comes to set pieces.
Yeah, NFL is basically a lot of set pieces in a row.
So why not get influence from that?
Yeah. Like despite your height, you didn't score in that season, despite playing a lot of games. How is that possible?
I mean, first of all, I'm not like dominant when it comes to my head, although I'm like almost 2 meters tall. I think I usually had like these other roles. So I would be a blocker, for example. Okay. I would usually start in front of the keeper, and then I would come out and block their best header. Just standing in a way, creating space for our best headers. So
you are very imposing, so I can imagine
but
that
also
can
I don't know, somehow they felt like maybe I could get away with stuff, and I could move at the right time, put myself in a position where we wouldn't get a free kick against us. So everybody has a role, and that is important to remember.
You already mentioned it a little bit, but Sparta isn't creating many chances, and actually even in defense, like the set pieces aren't great. So how much you feel you can like change with, like you were in such a good team in set pieces, how much you can adapt with, like, I would say smaller players or not that area dominant players in these teams, and actually do like really good set piece strategy?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge. I think when when you're physically the weaker side, then maybe you need to just be a little bit more creative, focus more on short plays. We were struggling defensively for many games. We actually had, which is just I think unique, we had 2 of our own attacking set pieces that we conceded goals from. Within like the first 9 games, we had
because you overcommitted,
we had a wide free kick, and I think we had a corner, and we conceded 2 goals, and that rarely happens. It happens maximum maybe once every 2 seasons or something, and we had 2 of those inside 9 games. So that just tells you something that we were struggling. A bit of naivety, a bit of making some mistakes, both probably players and coaching staffs. Now it's looking a little bit better, and I think actually attacking wise, when it comes to corner kicks especially, I think we've done okay. At least the first 8 or 9 games we did okay when it comes to creating goals, creating chances. But it's still definitely an area that we can improve. Now we've had Jan Blazicek with us, who I think has some really good ideas. Like creating solutions, being a little bit nerdy. So he's been a really good addition to our coaching staff. When it comes to set pieces, it's difficult to do something in the middle of the week, because that probably during the weekend you'll have a couple of players from the first team. Again, how much time should you spend on set pieces? But then we have interesting topics when it comes to throwing length. So our head of performance has this experiment where he's trying to increase the length of a couple of players' throw-ins by working once a week with their technique, but also with the medicine ball, and that is also something really cool to see that he's been able to do that. That can also be deadly. Having someone in the team that throws long is a weapon.
I think like in Liverpool there is actually a Danish Gronemark, who has like a whole YouTube channel about.
Norwegian.
Oh, sorry, no, I thought he's Danish. Actually, when we come into the club, we try to explain them like throw-ins are so important, and you can kind of like make a huge difference with actually not that much time spent. So like usual numbers would be like you have 50% control of the ball after your own throw-in, and you can get it somewhere to 70 with few weeks of work, which is like I don't know, like a lot of possessions. That can help you.
But that was what I mentioned, that why are we not spending more time on creating some patterns when it comes to throw-ins, especially in the middle of the pitch. I really don't get it, because there's so many of those throw-ins, and especially our team, now we're aware that it's like a weakness of ours. We've shown some clips, we made our players aware, because we were so poor. We just throw it to a guy maybe under pressure, he puts the ball back, and then we're under pressure, we lose the ball, and then it's just just.
There is so much data about it. You can analyze probably we can. I can tell here that like the switching to other side is this is the best scenario you can do. So actually have a strategy just how to get to the other side from this compact space would be just immediately helpful for any coach. Yeah,
and just the fact that if you take the throw in within 10 seconds. You have a higher probability of actually keeping possession. So just having that in mind, it gives you some keys, some solutions to the games.
Yeah, actually, like Gronemark's strategy is that you need to do one of three, like very quick throwing or smart throwing when you do some like movement to allow yourself to switch to the other side, and the third one is long throwing to immediately switch. So and you always I like the way that you always after throwing you can ask player like which one of those three was it, because if you are not doing any of those why are we training this, and then
you have some clear principles of how we want to work.
And in the end, like they had, I think in middle of one season they had like 14 goals from throw-ins, connected like in 25 seconds from throwing, goal was scored, which is crazy. So I agree with you that it's undervalued. We are both fans of the best club in the world, Manchester United. Right now it doesn't feel like the best club in the world after ending up last in group with Copenhagen and Galatasaray. So what are your current thoughts on Ten Hag's like a reign in as a manager?
I think you should always be careful to have an opinion on other people when you haven't followed their work that extensively. So I've watched like a few games here and there, but I have a small kid at home, so it's difficult for me to go to my partner and say, hey, I want to watch. First you work for like 10-12 hours, and then you go on in the evening and say, hey, I want to watch your game. So it hasn't.
It's the same everywhere. But small kid as well, and
it hasn't been successful.
It's a poor pitch for the wife.
But I just feel like if I think a little bit bigger, I think it's a club with no direction at the moment. I think they lack a sporting director, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So how can you? Like in modern football, how can you work with the sporting director? Because that is a key role, a key guy in a football environment. So I just feel it's club-wise they are a little bit messy at the moment for someone of their stature, and that influences many things.
Yeah, I actually think we have Arnold as a sporting director, but he's not the guy who should influence his views on football based on his career and football understanding. And yeah, so we always like give it to the coach. Like the strategy is the current strategy of the coach.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst, and that you still see today that like the philosophy of a club is just based on who the coach is in the first team, and that is just not a sustainable method anymore.
Yeah, like I don't know how much you watched Manchester United with this information, but I was very surprised like how many. Like maybe I'll back it up a little bit. I followed Ten Hag a lot before he came, even in Utrecht and in Ajax. And the main thing about I think he understands the game really well. Like his game understanding and his as actually how he solves some problems feels like on top level. Actually, like explaining them and so on. But I think the main thing they did wrong in the summer was focusing much more on off the ball rather than how we will build up or how we will score goals in final third. Maybe the best example of this is Mason Mount, where when we signed Mason Mount, I saw him as like someone with really good press resistance and someone who actually in this advanced 8 position can help us move the ball forward in build up, and he has the pressing attributes as well. But like overall, I felt that this is the main aim of signing this player, and it turned up that like he thought about him mainly about pressing player. So he kind of like their aim was actually go for pressing rather than anything else. Like how do you feel about?
Yeah, I have the same feeling when it comes to Ten Hag. I do believe that he's an intelligent coach. I think his tactical understanding, I think it's on a high level, just based on things you see in games. But yeah, there's I really don't know what they've worked on when it comes to the season before and the preseason and stuff.
It felt like even from some interviews that he said that we want to be the best best counter-attacking team in the world. There was this sentence that stuck in my head.
You can see when you see the players they have with Rashford and Sancho and
even Bruno,
Nacho and Anthony. It would be a valid style in that sense that you give them space to roam or to run deep. But yeah, and then you see coaches like De Zerbi, who how much does he think about pressing? To be honest, I think he's probably 75%. It's how he wants to play with the ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, difficult to analyze a coach's performance just based on the games, but I just believe that the problems are probably bigger than just the coach. I think in football generally we get so caught up in the manager of a club, because of course he's the face of that club, of that team. But it's just a little bit too easy to fire the coach and not look at other key roles in the club.
Yeah, like we are actually not curing the disease if we say that he picked the players, so he's responsible for the signings to not perform. But actually, he at the first place he shouldn't be the one picking players. He should be the one making demands about certain skill sets the players will have. And then someone else should be like the expert on scouting and so on. So like in his specific example, in the first transfer window, it was actually super successful. But it was successful because we signed 3 players that he knew from Eredivisie. And then we top it up with some like proven players like Eriksen and Casemiro, where we overpaid. But you could see that he's like just picking up players that he saw in the last year, like very clearly and from like good distance. But after a year, when he didn't have time to watch any of those leagues, then we are doing like mistakes of signing players from the same pool or similar pool, even though you should be picking up from, I don't know, the pool of players we are picking up like 10 times more.
Yeah.
I would a little bit stay on because I have a coach here, so I would a little bit stay on the Manchester United and their build-up. Like, do you feel firstly that the structure 3-1 is actually like in this current, they play 3-1-6? Do you feel that this structure actually, you mentioned the problem with rest defense and that you get a lot of counter-attacks, like, do you feel that this structure is actually enough right now in current environment when like everyone can kind of hit you with fast counter-attack?
Yeah, that's a good question, because especially when you can feel like some players, and Onana is a good example. You can see that he's maybe he's been affected by like criticism and giving the ball away in key moments. So maybe you should think about actually having more players helping you building up to give some kind of security. So it's definitely a fair point. I just feel like I think the idea from Ten Hag was De Gea was a good keeper, good shot stopper, but he saw some weaknesses when it comes to his ability to build up.
That's very politically said. Some weaknesses. He was terrible. That's like there is no way around it. He was probably like he couldn't see behind the first line. That was the problem. So
it made sense to bring Onana in, because that is also when it comes to Ten Hag and his style of play. It's a crucial element. Just like Guardiola when he had
Navas and Hart,
but he had Hart. Was it Joe Hart?
Joe Hart, yeah.
Joe Hart.
And then he switched to Navas.
He switched because Joe Hart was not good enough with the ball, and that was again a crucial role for his style of play. So I think that Ten Hag he thinks deeply about it, and he has some good ideas, but I feel it's just a bit of a messy club at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like they should commit, like if you sign it on Onana and you are still playing like, I don't know, 30% of your build-up is long balls, then like why did you sign it him?
Really?
And I like Ten Hag explanation of this is that the player have not good enough quality to play on the ball in this environment, and I actually disagree with it, because like we discussed before the podcast about Postenoglu, and like he has like Højbjerg and Bissouma who are not on the level to play in high possession team, and they just started, and it's okay. It's not great. Like maybe United will win more points in the short run, but in the long run, like they are playing much more sustainable approach.
Yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air. Tottenham and Ange. So some good coaching pedigree at the moment.
We discussed before the podcast about the press conferences. So how do you feel? Like, what will be your style of play? I don't know. How is it press conferences in the second division? You just talk with your like department inside the club to give interview.
I don't know. Are there any press conferences?
I have no idea, to be honest.
I think that's
usually the coaches speak like to their not press conferences, but they like explain the game after the game to their marketing department.
That we do, but yeah, you can live a pretty easy life in that respect when you're, I think, a coach in the second division. I'm not saying easy life, but when it comes to like media visibility and media, it's very it's not really there. Just for normal.
You are used to much higher. Like
I just feel like it's for coming from like being a footballer, it's been really nice to get away from that. Mm-hmm. To get away from interviews that doesn't really give you anything. I think this is what I like, that we can sit down, we can talk. It's a discussion about football, but it's also a discussion about development, coaching, life. So these are like, but both for a journalist and for a player or a coach, these pre-game things that can be really uneventful, boring. But Ange in Spurs, I call him Ange because I can't pronounce his last name.
I'm trying. I'm saying Posteroglu, but it's maybe Czech way of pronunciation.
But he's been the first few press conferences. It was like you could write a book from his answers. He was just like a really old wise guy, being really philosophical, really. Taking his time answering those questions. So I think we all really enjoyed having him there.
I feel like this is for all of the coaches when they come. Like first few conferences of Ten Hag, for example, were amazing. Like how much he put emphasis on the word control and how much control he wanted to have about like things happening on the pitch and so on. And right now it feels like broken record. Like every time, okay, we did this because of this, and there is not many. Yeah, I actually like the philosophical approach because then you can get more into coach's head than if he explained like, oh, we played this player because this guy wasn't ready or something like that.
Yeah, and it's just like we spoke about it before we started recording, that I think coaches and players, they just need to see that as an opportunity to speak to fans, to speak to kids, to young people, to speak to anyone. It's not just about answering a journalist's question. It's just you really have a chance to have an impact, to influence people's lives, and it doesn't need to be just football questions, but really see it as an opportunity to be some kind of role model. And I remember when I was young, I always felt it a little bit boring, having to go to the media stuff. But later on, I actually saw it as an opportunity to if I had a message that I wanted to convey, if I had something on my mind that just transcends the football pitch. So when it comes to, it can be anything from equality to racism to healthy habits, physical activity, anything. You should see this, having a mic in front of you as really a good chance to speak out loud.
You spoke strongly about Qatar. I read your blog yesterday. Like, can you maybe explain your own view on that situation?
Well, long story short, I just feel like this evolution of football, elite football, is just getting out of hand. In some cases, I feel the most important stakeholders, FIFA especially, I feel like they don't really emphasize human rights questions when it comes to awarding big tournaments. They don't really emphasize on getting players' opinions on board before making their decisions. And now we also saw Saudi Arabia being being awarded the World Cup without any kind of competition, and just felt like behind closed doors, shortening the time for other countries to actually come in with a bid, which scared some countries off. So I just feel like we're heading towards the disaster in a way, because I feel it's too much about money, it's too much about power, not enough about those kind of soft values that are important.
And do you feel that also like these owners coming to Premier League, like right now for Newcastle or even for Man United, there was quoted like another Qatari investor which didn't end up fulfilling. Do you feel that that's also problematic, or you welcome money in football overall?
I think it's just problematic when countries like Qatar, countries like Saudi Arabia, when they use sport as a means to polish their image. You know, when we talk about Newcastle, when we talk about, you know, Formula One competitions in Saudi Arabia, we forget about the things that are happening in these countries, because that is what they want. They want to take our attention away from their human rights abuses, and that for me is problematic.
Okay, so thank you for taking the time for the podcast, and it was a really nice talk, and thank you again this close to the Christmas that you had 2 hours to spend here.
No worries. Anything for 11Hacks. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.